The alarm screamed through the Zalkarian Deep Space Monitoring Station. Commander Vixdill's 4 eyes snapped to the main display screen. His blue skin turned pale as he read the impossible data. "This cannot be right," he whispered to himself. "Operator." Zixka turned from her control panel. Her hands shook as she checked the readings again. "Commander, I have run the scan 5 times. The results are the same." Vexthal walked closer to the screen. The numbers glowed red against the black background. Energy signature, massive. Ship class, unknown but enormous. Origin point, the dead zone where Earth used to be. "Show me the visual," he ordered. The screen changed. In the dark of space, a shape moved toward them. It was huge, bigger than any ship Vexthal had ever seen. The hull was black and scarred. Strange lights blinked along its sides. It looked like a monster from the old stories his grandmother used to tell. "Run identification scan," Vexthal said. His voice was barely above a whisper. The computer worked for several long seconds. Then words appeared on the screen that made Vexthal's blood run cold. Ship class, human dreadnought. Name, Retribution's Edge. Zixka dropped her datapad. It hit the floor with a loud crash. "That's impossible. The humans are dead. We killed them all 3 years ago." Vexthal stared at the screen. He remembered the reports from the war. The Coalition had sent over 1,000 ships to destroy Earth. They had burned the planet until nothing lived. Every human colony had been found and destroyed. The galaxy had celebrated the end of the human threat, but here was a human ship, and it was coming their way. "Open communication channels," Vexthal ordered. "Send emergency signals to Coalition Command. Tell them we have a situation." Before Zixka could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A voice came through. The speakers. It was speaking the common language, but with that strange accent that only humans had. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Terran Resistance Fleet. We are approaching your station. Do not be afraid. We are not here to hurt you." Vexthal. Hands shook as he reached for the communication controls. "Human ship, this is Commander Vexthal of Monitoring Station 7. Your presence here is impossible. All humans were destroyed in the Great Cleansing." A laugh came through the speakers. It was not a cruel laugh, but it made Vixthal's skin crawl anyway. "Reports of our death have been greatly exaggerated, Commander. We're coming home." The communication ended. Vixthal stared at the screen as the huge ship grew larger. He could see more details now. The hull was covered in scars from battle. Some parts looked like they had been rebuilt with different metals. Gun ports lined the sides like the teeth of a great beast. "Get me Admiral Korthik," Vexthal said. "Emergency. Channel, Priority Alpha." Zixka's hands flew over her controls. After a few moments, the stern face of Admiral Korthik appeared on a side screen. The old Zalkarian military leader looked annoyed. "This better be important, Commander." "I was in a meeting with the High Council. Sir, we have detected a human warship in the Meridian sector. It's heading toward Coalition space." Admiral Korthik's expression changed from annoyance to shock. "That's impossible. We destroyed every human ship 3 years ago." "I thought so, too, sir, but it's here. The ship calls itself Retribution's Edge. The captain says they are coming home." For a long moment, Admiral Korthik said nothing. His face had turned the same pale blue as Vexthal's. Finally, he spoke. "Send me all the data you have. Everything. And get your people ready to evacuate the station." "Sir, should we not fight?" "It's only one ship." Admiral Korthik's laugh was bitter. "Commander, you clearly don't remember the war reports. One human ship destroyed our entire 4th Fleet at the Battle of Rigel. Another one held off 50 coalition vessels for 6 hours before it finally died. If this is really a human warship, your station doesn't stand a chance. The connection ended. Vexthul turned back to the main screen. The human ship was much closer now. He could see smaller ships moving around it like angry insects. No, not insects. Like hunters protecting their pack leader. "Commander," Zixka called out. "I'm getting strange readings from the edge of the system. Multiple energy signatures moving in from different directions." "How many?" I can't tell. They're using some kind of stealth technology I've never seen before. But there are a lot of them." Vexthul felt his heart skip a beat. If there were more human ships out there, this wasn't just one surviving vessel. This was a fleet. But how? How had any human survived the Great Cleansing? The communication system activated again. Captain Chun's voice filled the station. "Commander Vexthul, I want you to send a message to every coalition world. Tell them the humans are back. Tell them we remember what they did to Earth. Tell them we remember our friends who died. And tell them this: we're not the same species you tried to destroy. We're something new. Something stronger." "What do you want?" Vexthul asked. "We want our galaxy back. We want freedom for all the species you have enslaved. We want justice for our dead world. But most of all, we want you to understand something important." "What?" "You should never have awakened a sleeping giant. You should never have attacked a species that refuses to give up. And you should never, ever, have underestimated what humans can do when they have nothing left to lose." The screen showed the massive human ship passing by the station. It did not attack. It did not even slow down. It just kept moving toward the heart of coalition space, like a dark arrow shot from the bow of an angry god dock. Behind it came the others. Ships of every size and shape. Some looked like they had been built from the wreckage of destroyed vessels. Others were clearly alien designs that had been captured and changed. But they all flew together with purpose. "Sir," Zixka whispered, "long-range sensors show more ships coming out of deep space. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds." Vexthul watched. The fleet passed by his station. Each ship carried the same message painted on its hull in the human language. He didn't need to translate it. He knew what it said. "Remember Earth." As the last human ship disappeared toward coalition space, Vexthul realized the galaxy was about to change forever. The humans were back, and they were angry. Admiral Korthik stood in his command center on the planet Zephoros Prime. Around him, dozens of coalition officers worked at their stations. Every screen showed the same thing: human ships moving through space toward coalition worlds. "Give me the Earth files," Korthik ordered his aide. "I want to remember why we were so afraid of them." Lieutenant Kekstar brought up the old war records on the main display. Images of Earth appeared first. It had been a blue and green world, beautiful in its own way. Then came pictures of human cities, human ships, and human soldiers. "They don't look so dangerous," Kekstar said. "They're smaller than most of us. Only 2 eyes. No claws or natural weapons." Korthik shook his head. "That's what we all thought. That's why the war started." The images changed to show early contact between humans and the coalition. Trade agreements, peace talks. For a few years, everything had seemed normal. "The humans were happy to trade with us," Korthik explained. "They gave us their art and music. They shared their food and stories. Some of our people even thought they were harmless, weak." "What changed?" Kekstar asked. "We did." Korthik's voice was heavy with old pain. "The High Council decided that humans were too dangerous to leave alone. They bred too fast. They asked too many questions. They wouldn't follow our rules." More images appeared. Coalition fleets gathering at the edge of human space. demands for surrender, human colonies being told they must submit to coalition rule or be destroyed. They said no, Korthik continued. Every single human colony said no, even when we showed them our massive fleets, even when we proved we could destroy them easily. They just said no. The display showed the first battles, coalition ships attacking human worlds. It should have been easy. The humans had fewer ships and weaker weapons, but something was wrong. Look at this battle report, Korthik pointed to the screen. We attacked the human colony on Kepler 7 with 50 ships. They had only 5 ships to defend with. By all logic, we should have won in minutes. What happened? They fought like nothing we had ever seen before. Their ships were damaged, but they kept fighting. When their weapons failed, they tried to ram our vessels. When their ships were destroyed, the survivors fought on in escape pods. It took us 6 hours to take that world. 6 hours to defeat 5 ships. Kekstar studied the battle data. This says they destroyed 12 of our ships. 12 ships lost to defeat 5. That was our first hint that we had made a terrible mistake. The images changed again. Now they showed the siege of Earth itself. Over 1,000 coalition ships surrounded the human home world. It was the largest fleet ever assembled. We demanded their surrender, Korthik said. We told them we would spare their lives if they submitted. Do you know what they said? No, sir. They said, come and take it. Then they opened fire. The battle footage was hard to watch. Earth's defense fleet was tiny compared to the coalition. Armada. Human ships died by the dozens. But for every human ship destroyed, coalition vessels were damaged or destroyed in return. They turned their entire planet into a fortress, Korthik explained. Every city had anti-ship weapons. Every building was a bunker. When we landed troops, human civilians fought alongside their soldiers. Children threw bombs at our tanks. Old people shot at our aircraft. The siege of Earth lasted 3 years. 3 years of constant fighting against a species that refused to give up. The humans used every dirty trick they could think of. They hid weapons in hospitals. They disguised soldiers as civilians. They turned cargo ships into guided missiles. By the end, we had lost half our fleet, Korthik said quietly. Half of the largest armada ever built, destroyed by one world that wouldn't surrender. But we won, Kekstar pointed out. We destroyed Earth. Did we? Korthik looked at his aide. Yes, we turned Earth into a dead rock. Yes, we killed billions of humans. But did we really win? The display showed the aftermath. Human survivors scattered across the galaxy, using stolen ships to attack coalition worlds. They hit supply convoys. They destroyed space stations. They made every occupied human world a nightmare to control. They never gave up, Korthik said. Even after Earth died, they kept fighting. For 2 more years, we hunted human survivors through the dark between stars. Every time we thought we had found the last group, more would appear somewhere else. The reports say we killed them all. The reports said what the High Council wanted to hear, but some of us always wondered. Humans were too smart and too stubborn to all die so easily. A communication alert beeped. Korthik activated the channel. Commander Vexthil's panicked face appeared on the screen. Admiral, the human fleet has passed my station. One count over 200 ships of various sizes. They're heading directly for the Nexus Gate. Korthik felt his blood turn cold. The Nexus Gate controlled access to the core worlds. If the humans took it, they could strike at the heart of Coalition space. What's their estimated arrival time? 18 hours, sir. After ending the communication, Korthik turned to his staff. Prepare the Third Fleet for immediate departure. Send messages to all Coalition worlds. The humans are back, and they're coming for revenge. As his officers rushed to carry out orders, Korthik stared at the old war footage still playing on the main screen. He watched human soldiers fighting impossible odds. He saw human civilians dying rather than surrender. He remembered the fear in Coalition soldiers' eyes when they realized what kind of enemy they were facing. "Sir," Kekstar asked quietly, "what made them so dangerous?" "They're just one species among thousands." Korthik was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice that carried the weight of terrible memory. "Most species in the galaxy evolved from prey animals. They learned to run and hide when faced with danger. Others came from peaceful worlds where cooperation was the key to survival. But humans? Humans came from a death world where everything tried to kill them. They learned to hunt. They learned to fight. Most importantly, they learned never to give up. But surely our technology and numbers can defeat them again." "You don't understand," Korthik said, turning away from the screen. "The humans we fought before were farmers and traders and artists who had to learn war. The humans coming for us now have spent 3 years doing nothing but learning how to kill us better. They've had time to study our weaknesses, time to build better weapons, time to plan their revenge." The Admiral walked to the window that looked out over Coalition Command. In the distance, he could see ships preparing for battle. Thousands of Coalition vessels getting ready to face the human threat. "We should have left them alone," he whispered. "We should have never attacked Earth, because now we're going to learn what happens when you try to destroy a species that refuses to die." Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Retribution's edge. Around her, human officers worked at their stations with calm focus. The main screen showed empty space ahead, but Sarah knew better. Her fleet was out there, hidden in the darkness. "Status report," she ordered. "All ships are in position, Captain," replied Commander Torres, her second in command. "The Ghost Squadron is moving through the asteroid field. The Hammer Group is approaching from the outer system. Convoy 7 is ready to drop stealth at your command." Sarah nodded. 3 years of hiding in the void had taught humanity many new tricks. They had learned to move unseen through space. They had learned to turn any piece of metal into a weapon. Most importantly, they had learned patience. "Any word from the other fleets?" she asked. "Fleet Group Alpha is approaching the Rigel system. Fleet Group Beta is moving toward the Centauri stations. All groups report ready for Phase 1. Sarah smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Phase 1 was about more than revenge. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity had not just survived, they had evolved. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Park from the communication station, "we're getting signals from deep space. More ships coming out of hiding." The main screen changed to show long-range sensor data. Dozens of new contacts appeared, moving in from the dark spaces between stars. Some were large, others small. All of them carried the same signal: human ships coming home. "The generation ships are finally ready to join us," Torres said with satisfaction. Sarah remembered the generation ships. Before the war, they had been massive colony vessels carrying millions of humans to distant worlds. When Earth fell, those ships had vanished into deep space. The Coalition thought they had been destroyed or had fled the galaxy entirely. They were wrong. "Show me the Phoenix Rising," Sarah ordered. The screen focused on one of the larger contacts. The Phoenix Rising had once been a simple colony ship. Now it was something else entirely. Its hull was covered with armor plating salvaged from destroyed Coalition vessels. Gun ports lined its sides. Fighter bays had been carved into its structure. "How many people aboard her now?" Sarah asked. 2 million civilians, Torres replied, plus 50,000 trained fighters and a full manufacturing facility. She's been building new ships for us while staying hidden in the void. Sarah thought about those 2 million people. They were children who had been born after Earth died, adults who had lived their entire lives in the darkness between stars. They had never seen a real planet, never breathed natural air. But they knew who they were. They were human, and they were coming home. "Signal from the Endurance," Lieutenant Park announced. "Captain Martinez wants to know if he should begin the demonstration. Tell him to proceed. It's time the Coalition learned what we've been doing while they thought we were dead." The screen switched to show another ship moving toward a Coalition listening post. The Endurance looked like an old cargo vessel. Scarred and patched, it seemed. Harmless enough. But as they watched, panels on its hull opened to reveal hidden weapon systems. "The Coalition post is hailing the Endurance," Park reported. "They're demanding identification." "Let me hear it," Sarah said. A nervous alien voice came through the speakers. "Unknown vessel. This is Coalition Station Echo 7. State your business." "In this system," Captain Martinez's voice answered, calm and steady. "This is Captain Rodriguez Martinez of the Earth vessel Endurance. We're here to collect what you stole from us." "There are no Earth vessels. Earth was destroyed 3 years ago. Earth was our home," Martinez replied. "But we are more than one world. We are an idea, and ideas are very hard to kill." On the screen, they watched as the Endurance moved closer. To the station. The Coalition post fired warning shots, but the human ship didn't slow down. "You have 10 seconds to surrender the station," Martinez announced. "After that, we take it by force." "This is impossible," the alien voice said. "You're just one old cargo ship. We have defensive systems, armed shuttles, a full garrison." 9 seconds, Martinez said calmly. Sarah watched with pride as the Endurance revealed its true nature. Hidden weapons emerged from concealed bays. Fighter craft launched from secret hangars. What had looked like one old ship was actually a mobile battle platform. The Coalition station tried to fight back, but it was over quickly. Human fighters swarmed the station's defenses, while the Endurance's guns disabled its weapons. Within minutes, the station was floating helpless in space. "Station Echo 7 is now under human control," Martinez reported. "No Coalition casualties. They're our prisoners, not our enemies." Sarah felt a moment of satisfaction. That was important. The humans were not here to become like the Coalition. They were here to be better. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "we're receiving reports from across the sector. Human ships are revealing themselves everywhere. The Liberation Fleet is surrounding Coalition worlds. The rescue squadrons are moving to free slave populations. The Ghost Fleet is disrupting their supply lines." "How many ships do we have in total?" "Current count is over 800 vessels. More are arriving every hour." Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. 800 ships. 3 years ago, humanity had maybe 50 warships when the Coalition attacked Earth. Now they had an entire fleet built from nothing but determination and salvaged parts. "Any response from Coalition Command?" "Admiral Korthik is mobilizing the Third Fleet. 200 ships moving to intercept us at the Nexus Gate." "Only 200? Sarah laughed. "He's either very confident or very foolish." "Maybe both," Torres suggested. The communication system activated. A new voice came through, speaking in accented Coalition standard. It was Admiral Korthik himself. "Human ships, this is Admiral Korthik of the Coalition Defense Force. You are in violation of galactic law. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to the rules of war." Sarah activated the reply channel. "Admiral Korthik, this is Captain Sarah Chun. I remember you from the Siege of Earth. You demanded our surrender then, too." A long pause. "Captain Chun, I thought you died on Earth." "A lot of people thought that. They were wrong. I was evacuated with the last group of children. We've been waiting for this day. What do you want?" We want our friends back. We want the slave worlds freed. We want justice for Earth. And we want the galaxy to remember that some species cannot be conquered. You're outnumbered. Even with 800 ships, the Coalition has thousands. Admiral, you're thinking like someone who fights from a position of strength. We learned long ago how to fight when we're outnumbered. We got very good at it. Sarah ended the communication and turned to her crew. These were men and women who had grown up in the ruins of human civilization. They had learned engineering by rebuilding damaged ships. They had learned tactics by fighting impossible odds. They had learned courage by watching their parents refuse to give up. All ships, this is Captain Chun, she announced on the fleet channel. In 18 hours, we reach the Nexus Gate. The Coalition will try to stop us there. This will be our first real battle since Earth fell. Some of you were children when that happened. Others weren't even born yet. But all of you carry the memory of our home world in your hearts. She paused, looking around the bridge at her crew. The Coalition thinks they destroyed humanity when they burned Earth. They think we're just a handful of survivors looking for revenge. They're wrong. We're not the same species they tried to exterminate. We're something new. Something forged in the darkness between stars. Something that doesn't know how to give up. On the screen, more human ships continued to emerge from hiding. Colony ships converted to carriers. Mining vessels turned into gunships. Even small civilian craft armed with improvised weapons. We're going home, Sarah said softly. And we're bringing friends. Admiral Korthik stood in the command center of his flagship, the Dominator. Around him, 200 Coalition ships waited in formation near the Nexus Gate. It was the largest space gate in the galaxy, connecting the outer systems to the core. Worlds. If the humans took control of it, they could strike at the heart of Coalition space. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up the human fleet, reported his tactical officer. Distance. 2 light hours and closing. How many ships? Difficult to say. They're using some kind of jamming technology. But at least 50, maybe more. Korthik nodded. 50 ships against 200. Those were good odds, even against humans. Show me their formation. The main display lit up with tactical data. The human ships were spread out in a loose formation. Not the tight battle groups that most species used. Some ships were far ahead of others. Some hung back in the rear. That's a strange formation, observed Captain Zelenex, Korthik's second in command. It looks almost random. Don't be fooled, Korthik warned. Humans never do anything random in battle. There's a plan here. We just don't see it yet. The waiting continued. Coalition ships held their positions around the Nexus Gate like a steel wall. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their shields were at maximum power. It should have been enough to stop any attack. Contact, the sensor officer called out. Human ships entering weapons range. Korthik studied the tactical display. The human fleet was still approaching in that loose formation. He could see the Retribution's edge leading the attack, its massive hull scarred from old battles. Behind it came a mix of ship types he had never seen before. Those ships, he said, pointing at the display. Some of them aren't warships. You're right, sir. I'm reading colony ship designs, cargo vessels, even what looks like a mining platform. They brought civilians to a battle? Captain Zelenex sounded shocked. Korthik shook his head. No, they brought every ship they had. That's what humans do. When they fight, everyone fights. The human fleet spread out even more as it approached. Ships moved in different directions, some high, some low, some coming straight at the Coalition. Formation. It looked like chaos, but Korthik knew better. All ships, prepare to engage, he ordered. Target their largest vessels first. If we can break their command structure, the rest will retreat. Sir, the humans are transmitting on all frequencies. Let me hear it. Captain Chun's voice filled the command center. Coalition ships, this is your last chance to withdraw. We don't want to kill you. We want the gate. Stand aside and let us pass. Korthik activated his reply channel. Captain Chun, I have 200 ships. You have maybe 60. Surrender now, and I'll spare your lives. Admiral, you still don't understand. We're not here to fight fair. We're here to win. The communication ended. Korthik turned to his weapons officer. All ships open fire. The space around the Nexus gate lit up with energy beams and missile trails. 200 coalition ships fired at once, their combined firepower enough to destroy a small moon. The human ships scattered like leaves in a storm, but they didn't retreat. Damage report on the human fleet, Korthik demanded. Minimal hits, sir. They're using evasive maneuvers unlike anything in our tactical database. Their ships are moving independently, but somehow staying coordinated. On the screen, Korthik watched something impossible. The human ships were fighting like a school of fish, each vessel reacting instantly to threats while maintaining perfect formation with the others. When coalition fire concentrated on one ship, 3 others would move to protect it. When a human vessel was damaged, 2 more would close in to cover its retreat. How are they coordinating like that? Captain Zelenex asked in amazement. Unknown. Sir, their communication patterns are too complex for our computers to decode. Then the human ships began to return fire. Korthik expected their weapons to be weaker than coalition guns. He was wrong. Beams of energy more powerful than anything he had seen before lanced out from the human fleet. Coalition shields flared and failed under the assault. What kind of weapons are those? He demanded. Analyzing now, sir. The energy signatures are. Sir, they're using our own technology against us. Those are modified coalition weapons, but they've been improved somehow. One of Korthik's destroyers exploded in a ball of fire. Then another. The humans were concentrating their fire, taking out coalition ships one by one with surgical precision. Sir, the human cargo ships are launching something. Multiple small contacts incoming. Korthik looked at the tactical display and felt his heart skip a beat. The human cargo ships were launching hundreds of small fighters, but these weren't normal fighter craft. They were moving too fast and maneuvering too sharply. Those are drone fighters, his tactical officer reported. Fully automated, they're swarming our escort vessels. The battle turned into chaos. Coalition ships found themselves fighting on multiple fronts. The large human vessels engaged the coalition battle line, while swarms of drone fighters attacked from all directions. Meanwhile, the converted civilian ships revealed hidden weapons and joined the battle. We're losing ships too fast, Captain Zelenex reported. The humans are using some kind of advanced battle management system. Every shot they fire hits something. How is that possible? Unknown. It's like they can predict where our ships will be before we move. Korthik watched his carefully planned formation fall apart. Coalition ships were exploding or retreating in disorder. The humans pressed their attack with relentless efficiency. Every move they made seemed designed to cause maximum damage with minimum risk. Sir, urgent message from the destroyer squadron. They report that human ships are appearing behind our lines. Ships that weren't there before. What do you mean? Stealth. Ships, sir. The humans had vessels hiding in the area before the battle started. They're attacking our rear formations. On the display, Korthik could see new human ships revealing themselves throughout the battle zone. Ships that had been invisible were now firing on surprised coalition vessels. The humans hadn't just brought one fleet to this battle. They had brought 3 or 4 smaller fleets and coordinated a massive ambush. All ships fall back to defensive positions around the gate, Korthik ordered. Form a defensive sphere. Make them come to us. But the humans didn't cooperate. Instead of charging the coalition defensive line, they spread out even more. Some ships moved to attack the gate's control stations. Others began firing on the gate's power systems. A few hung back and continued to launch more drone fighters. They're not trying to break through our defenses, Captain Zelenex realized. They're trying to capture the gate intact. Of course they are, Korthik said bitterly. They need it to get to the core worlds, and they're willing to fight a long battle to take it. The Retribution's edge moved closer to the gate, its massive guns firing continuously. Coalition ships concentrated their fire on the human flagship, but its shield seemed impossibly strong. Smaller human vessels moved to protect it, taking hits meant for their command ship. Sir, we're down to 140 ships. The humans still have most of their fleet intact. Korthik looked at the tactical display. His ships were scattered and damaged. The humans were winning through superior coordination and better technology. But worst of all, they were fighting with a purpose that his own forces couldn't match. Open a channel to Captain Shun, he ordered. Go ahead, Admiral, came the immediate reply. How? Korthik asked simply. How are you doing this? 3 years ago, you were farmers and merchants. Now you fight like you were born for war. Captain Shun's voice was calm. We had good teachers, Admiral. You taught us that the galaxy is a dangerous place. You taught us that survival requires strength. You taught us that some enemies will never stop coming unless you stop them first. We didn't mean to create this. No, you didn't. You meant to destroy us. But humans are hard to kill. And when you try to destroy us, we become something stronger. Another coalition ship exploded on the display. Korthik realized that he was about to lose not just the battle, but possibly his entire fleet. All ships, he announced with a heavy heart. Begin withdrawal to the second defensive line. We cannot hold the gate. As coalition ships retreated through hyperspace, Korthik took one last look at the human fleet. They had won their first major battle since Earth's fall. But he knew this was just the beginning. The humans were coming home, and they were bringing war with them. Captain Sarah Chun stood in the command center of the captured Nexus Gate Station. Through the large windows, she could see human ships moving through the massive space gate in organized groups. The route to the core worlds was now open. Status. Report, she ordered. Commander Torres looked up from his datapad. The gate is fully under our control. We've established communication links with all human fleets in the galaxy. Liberation forces are reporting success on 12 worlds. Sarah nodded. The victory at the Nexus Gate had been bigger than just one battle. It had shown the galaxy that humans were back, and that they could defeat the coalition in open warfare. Any word from the freed worlds? The best news first. The slave camps on Rigel 4 have been liberated. Captain Martinez reports that over 2 million beings from 40 different species have been freed. They're asking to join our fleet, Sarah smiled. That was the real victory. The coalition had ruled through fear and slavery. Humanity offered something different, freedom and hope. What about coalition response? Mixed. Some worlds are surrendering without a fight. Others are preparing for siege. Admiral Korthik has been relieved of command. The High Council is demanding his replacement organize a counterattack. Who's the new commander? Admiral Zephyros. He's younger than Korthik and reportedly more aggressive. Sarah remembered Admiral Zephyros from the intelligence files. He was smart, ruthless, and had never lost a major battle. He would be a dangerous enemy. Captain, Lieutenant Park called from the communication station. We're receiving a transmission from Coalition High Command. It's addressed to you personally. Put it through. The main screen showed an imposing alien figure in an elaborate uniform. Admiral Zephyros had the scaled skin and multiple eyes of a saurian, one of the Coalition's founding species. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of absolute power. Captain Shun, I am Admiral Zephyros. I have been given full authority to end this human uprising. Admiral, Sarah replied calmly, this isn't an uprising. This is a homecoming. You have attacked Coalition stations, freed criminal populations, and disrupted galactic order. This ends now. The only thing ending is the Coalition's reign of terror. We're not here for conquest, Admiral. We're here for justice. Zephyros leaned forward. Justice? You speak of justice while leading an invasion fleet? We're not invaders, Sarah said firmly. We're liberators. Every world we've approached has been given a choice. Join us in freedom or continue serving the Coalition. So far, most are choosing freedom. The Coalition brings order to the galaxy. Without us, there would be chaos. The Coalition brings slavery and oppression. We've seen your order. Entire species forced to work in your mines. Worlds stripped of resources to feed your war machine. Children taken from their families to serve in your factories. Admiral Zephyros was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was harder. You cannot win. Even if you control a few outer systems, the Coalition has thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. We will crush you. Sarah looked around the command center at her crew. These were people who had grown up hearing stories of Earth's destruction. They had lived their entire lives preparing for this moment. Admiral, you don't understand what humanity has become. 3 years ago, we were a single species on one world. Now we're something more. We're an idea that spreads to every species that dreams of freedom. Ideas don't win wars. Ships and weapons win wars. Then let me show you what our idea has built. Sarah nodded to Torres, who activated the strategic display. The screen showed a map of the galaxy with human positions marked in blue and Coalition forces in red. 3 years ago, there had been no blue marks on the map. Now they covered a significant portion of the outer rim. 23 star systems had declared independence from the Coalition, Sarah announced. 47 species have joined the Human Alliance. Our fleet now numbers over 1,500 ships, and more worlds are joining us every day. Admiral Zephyros studied the display with obvious concern. Impossible. Our intelligence reports showed only a few hundred human survivors. Your intelligence reports showed what we wanted them to show. We've been planning this for 3 years, Admiral. Every detail, every move. We learned from our defeat at Earth. We became better. It doesn't matter. I have 3,000 ships under my command. I will crush your rebellion and restore order. Sarah's expression grew serious. Admiral, I'm going to tell you something important. The humans you fought at Earth were civilians trying to protect their home. The humans you face now are soldiers who have spent 3 years learning how to destroy the Coalition. We're not the same species you remember. You're still just humans. No, we're the children of Earth. We're the survivors of extinction. We're the nightmare that the Coalition created when it tried to destroy something that refused to die. The communication ended. Sarah turned to her staff. Around the command center, human officers worked alongside aliens from a dozen different species. All of them had chosen to fight for freedom rather than submit to Coalition rule. All fleet commanders, this is Captain Shun, she announced on the General Communication Channel. Admiral Zephyros is mobilizing the Coalition's main battle fleet. They're coming to retake the Nexus Gate and push us back to the Outer Rim. She paused, looking at the tactical displays showing human ships throughout the sector. This will be the largest battle since the siege of Earth. The Coalition will throw everything they have at us. They think that if they can break our fleet here, they can end the war. Are they right? asked Commander Torres quietly. Sarah shook her head. They still don't understand. This war isn't about fleets or weapons. It's about something much more powerful. On the screen, reports continued to come in from across the galaxy. Human ships were liberating slave worlds. Coalition garrison forces were surrendering rather than fight. Entire star systems were declaring independence. The Coalition ruled through fear, Sarah explained to her crew. They made every species afraid to resist. But we've shown the galaxy that the Coalition can be defeated. We've proven that freedom is possible. Lieutenant Park looked up from his station. Captain, we're receiving surrender offers from Coalition forces on 6 different worlds. They're asking for safe passage in exchange for releasing their prisoners. Grant all requests. Make it clear that we're not here to destroy the Coalition peoples. We're here to end the Coalition system. But what about Admiral Zephyros and his fleet? Sarah looked out at the stars beyond the gate. Somewhere out there, 3,000 Coalition ships were preparing for war. It would be the largest space battle in galactic history. Zephyros represents the old way of thinking. He believes that the strongest force wins. He's about to learn that strength isn't just about numbers. A new report came in from the Liberation. Fleets, the prison world of Tartarus Prime, had been freed. Over 5 million beings from hundreds of species had been released from Coalition camps. Many were asking to join the human fleet. You see, Sarah said to her crew, we're not fighting for human supremacy. We're fighting for the right of every species to be free. That's why we'll win. Because freedom is stronger than fear. She activated the fleet communication system one more time. All ships, all crews, all free beings of the galaxy. In 12 hours, the Coalition will arrive with their largest fleet. They come to destroy us and restore their empire of slavery. Sarah looked around the command center. Humans and aliens work together, united by their desire for freedom. They think this is the end of our rebellion. They're wrong. This is the beginning of a new galaxy. A galaxy where no species kneels to another. A galaxy where freedom isn't a dream, but a right. On the tactical display, more human ships continued to arrive through the gate. Ships from the deep void. Ships built in hidden asteroid bases. Ships crewed by humans who had never seen Earth but carried its memory in their hearts. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you try to destroy something that refuses to give up. Today, we prove that some things are worth fighting for. Today, we take back the stars. The human fleet prepared for the battle that would decide the future of the galaxy. But Sarah knew they had already won the most important victory. They had shown the galaxy that freedom was possible. And that idea, once planted, would grow until it covered every world under every star. The Coalition was about to learn that humans weren't just another species to be conquered. They were the children of a world that had taught them never to surrender. And they were home. Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the computer screen in her small office at the Kepler Deep Space Observatory. The numbers made no sense. For 3 days, she had been checking and rechecking the data from the radio telescopes. Every time, the results were the same. Impossible, but the same. The signal was coming from everywhere at once. Elena rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the screen again. The transmission appeared to be broadcasting from every star system within 50 light years of Earth. That was not how radio signals worked. Radio waves traveled in straight lines from one point to another. They did not magically appear from thousands of different locations at the exact same time. She picked up her coffee mug and took a sip of the cold liquid inside. The coffee tasted terrible, but she needed the caffeine. She had not slept properly in 3 days. Her supervisor, Dr. Martinez, thought she was losing her mind. Her colleagues avoided her in the hallways. But Elena knew what she was seeing was real. The signal itself was strange too. It seemed to exist in multiple states at the same time, like the quantum particles she studied in physics class years ago. Sometimes the signal was strong, sometimes weak. Sometimes it came from one star, sometimes from another. But it was always there, waiting. Elena saved her data files and walked to the main control room. The night shift was quiet. Only two other astronomers were working, both focused on their own projects. She sat down at the primary console and began running the signal through different filters and analysis programs. That was when she heard it. The signal was not random noise or natural radio waves from space. It was a message. A very complex message, with patterns and mathematics that suggested intelligence. Elena felt her heart race as she realized what this meant. This was first contact. Aliens were trying to talk to Earth. She spent the next 6 hours decoding the transmission. The mathematics were advanced, but not impossible to understand. The aliens seemed to know about human mathematics and science. They had structured their message in a way that humans could decode, if they were smart enough. As the sun came up over the desert around the observatory, Elena finally understood the basic meaning of the message. The aliens wanted to meet. They wanted to talk. And they were already here. Elena called Dr. Martinez immediately. Within hours, the small observatory was filled with scientists, government officials, and military personnel. The news spread quickly, through secure channels. World leaders held emergency meetings. The United Nations called a special session. 3 days later, the aliens revealed themselves. They did not land in spaceships or send robot probes. Instead, they simply appeared in the skies above every major city on Earth. Massive shapes materialized. In the air, beautiful and strange, like living buildings made of light and metal. The ships did not follow the laws of physics as humans understood them. They hung in the air without any visible means of support. Elena watched the news coverage from her office. The alien ships were peaceful. They made no threatening moves. They simply waited, as if giving humanity time to adjust to their presence. Then came the second message. This time, the aliens spoke in perfect English, and Chinese, and Spanish, and every other human language. Their voices came from every radio and television on Earth simultaneously. The message was simple and direct. We are the galactic consensus. We have been watching your species for many years. You have reached a level of development that allows you to make contact. We come in peace. We wish to share knowledge and invite humanity to join our community of civilized worlds. The alien representative identified herself as Coordinator Zenth. Her voice was calm and pleasant, like a teacher speaking to students. She explained that the galactic consensus was made up of thousands of intelligent species from across the galaxy. They worked together to maintain peace and stability throughout space. Your scientists believe that the laws of physics are fixed and unchanging, Coordinator Zenth said. This is not entirely accurate. Reality is more flexible than you understand. The laws that govern the universe are maintained through collective agreement among conscious minds. When enough intelligent beings believe something is true, it becomes true. Elena listened carefully as the alien explained concepts that challenged everything she thought she knew about science. According to Zenth, gravity worked because trillions of minds across the galaxy agreed that mass should attract other mass. The speed of light was constant because civilized species had decided it should be constant. Even basic mathematics worked because thinking beings had reached a consensus about how numbers should behave. This is why we formed the consensus, Zenth continued. By working together and agreeing on how reality should function, we maintain stability throughout the galaxy. We prevent chaos. We ensure that science and technology work predictably. The offer was incredible. The aliens promised to share their technology with humanity. They could cure diseases, extend human lifespans, provide unlimited clean energy, and teach humans to travel between the stars. All they asked in return was for humanity to join the consensus and help maintain the agreed-upon laws of reality. "Your species shows great promise," Zenth said, "but you also show great chaos. Humans often hold contradictory beliefs. You argue about facts that should be obvious. You change your minds frequently. This behavior threatens the stability that the consensus has maintained for millions of years." The solution was simple, according to the aliens. Humanity would need to learn to think more logically. They would need to give up their tendency toward chaos and contradiction. The consensus would help by providing advanced education and mental training. Humans would learn to think like other civilized species. World leaders were excited. The benefits of joining the consensus seemed enormous. Who would not want to cure cancer, end poverty, and explore the stars? The chaos that Zenth mentioned seemed like a small price to pay. Elena was not so sure. She returned to her data analysis, studying the alien signals more carefully. Something bothered her about the way the transmissions worked. The aliens claimed that reality was maintained through consensus, but their own signals violated the very laws they said they were maintaining. The impossible nature of the broadcast suggested that the aliens themselves were bending reality in ways that should not be possible. Over the following weeks, Elena watched as humanity began the process of joining the galactic consensus. Alien advisors appeared in major cities around the world. They were tall, elegant beings with smooth features and calm expressions. They spoke softly and moved gracefully. They seemed genuinely interested in helping humanity. The advisors began teaching human scientists about consensus science. They explained how collective belief shaped reality and how important it was for all thinking beings to agree on basic facts. They showed humans technologies that seemed like magic, but were actually based on focused group consciousness. Most humans were eager to learn. Universities created new departments to study consensus science. Governments funded massive education programs. Religious leaders met with alien philosophers to discuss the nature of reality and consciousness, but not everyone was convinced. Elena joined a small group of scientists and thinkers who had concerns about the consensus offer. They met quietly, in coffee shops and private homes, sharing their doubts about the alien proposal. Dr. Sarah Chun, a philosopher from Berkeley, worried that giving up human chaos might also mean giving up human creativity. Professor James Wright, a historian from Oxford, pointed out that human progress had often come from people who disagreed with accepted facts. What if our chaos is not a bug? Elena asked the group during one of their secret meetings. What if it is a feature? What if the reason humans have advanced so quickly is because we refuse to accept things the way they are? The question troubled Elena as she watched more and more humans embrace consensus thinking. The alien advisors were patient and kind, but they were also persistent. They gently corrected humans who expressed contradictory ideas. They encouraged people to think more logically and accept established facts. Elena noticed that the humans who spent the most time with the advisors began to change. They became calmer, more logical, more predictable. They stopped arguing about controversial topics. They accepted official explanations without question. They seemed happier, but also somehow less human. As the integration process continued, Elena made a disturbing discovery. Reality around Earth was indeed becoming more stable, just as the aliens had promised. But it was also becoming more rigid. Scientific experiments produced exactly the results that consensus science predicted. Artistic expression began following established patterns. Even human emotions seemed to be settling into more predictable ranges. Elena realized that humanity was not just joining the galactic consensus. They were disappearing into it. Soon, humans would think and act just like every other species in the galaxy. They would be safe, stable, and utterly ordinary. She had to decide whether to accept this peaceful future or fight for humanity's chaotic, contradictory, beautiful mess of a civilization. The choice would determine not just the fate of humanity, but possibly the fate of reality itself. 6 months after first contact, Elena walked through the streets of New York City and felt the wrongness in her bones. The morning air shimmered slightly, as if she were looking through water. When she dropped a pen while taking notes, it fell upward for 3 seconds before gravity remembered how it was supposed to work. The integration was not going as smoothly as the world leaders had hoped. Elena had been documenting reality distortions for 3 months now. Her unofficial research team had grown to include scientists from 12 countries, all reporting the same strange phenomena. Wherever large groups of humans gathered with different beliefs, the laws of physics became unreliable. At the University of Tokyo, Professor Yamamoto had measured the speed of light changing by small amounts depending on which physicist was running the experiment. In London, Big Ben chimed 13 times on Tuesdays when the local Flat Earth Society held their meetings nearby. In Cairo, the pyramids occasionally became transparent for no reason that consensus science could explain. Elena checked her instruments as she walked through Times Square. The gravity meter showed fluctuations of 0.3%. Not dangerous, but impossible according to everything humans had believed about physics before the aliens arrived. Her phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Chun. In California, reality distortion in San Francisco Bay Area increasing. Water flowing. Uphill in Berkeley during philosophy department meetings. Recommend immediate study. Elena sighed and put the phone away. The alien advisors insisted that these distortions were temporary growing pains. Coordinator Zenth had explained that human minds needed time to adjust to consensus thinking. Once humans learned to control their chaotic thoughts, reality would stabilize. But Elena suspected the truth was more complicated. She entered the small cafe where her resistance group met each week. The place was owned by Maria Santos, a former physics teacher who had refused the consensus education program. About 20 people sat at various tables, pretending to drink coffee while quietly discussing their concerns about the integration process. The distortions are getting worse, reported Dr. Kim from Seoul. Yesterday, an entire city block in Gangnam disappeared for 6 hours. It came back, but all the clocks inside were running backwards. Similar events in Mumbai, added Dr. Patel. Via video call. The train stations exist only on certain days of the week now. The city government is pretending this is normal, but people are starting to panic. Alana shared her own observations from New York. The reality distortions seem to follow patterns related to human psychology and culture. Areas with high concentrations of artists, philosophers, religious groups, or political activists experienced more frequent anomalies. Places where people had accepted consensus thinking remained stable. They are trying to fix us, said Professor Wright from his hiding place in rural England. The advisors are gentle about it, but they see human diversity of thought as a disease. That needs to be cured. Elena had noticed this too. The alien advisors worked tirelessly to resolve what they called cognitive discord among humans. They provided meditation techniques to help people think more clearly. They offered logical frameworks to replace emotional decision-making. They taught classes on the importance of accepting established facts. More troubling was the growing number of humans who embraced these teachings completely. Elena had watched her own colleagues at the observatory change over the months. Dr. Martinez now spoke in calm, measured tones about everything. He no longer got excited about new discoveries or frustrated with equipment failures. His personality had become smooth and predictable, like the alien advisors themselves. My daughter came home from school yesterday talking like them, Maria said quietly. She told me that her teacher explained why believing in multiple things at once was illogical. She said she was going to choose only one religion to believe in because having doubts was inefficient. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The aliens were not just changing adult humans. They were reshaping human children to think like consensus species from birth. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She had been raised Catholic, but also believed in scientific evolution. She loved both Shakespeare and quantum physics even, though they seemed to contradict each other about the nature of reality. According to consensus logic, these contradictions made her thinking inefficient and chaotic. According to Elena, these contradictions made her human. We need to do something, she said. The world governments are not listening to our concerns. They see the technology benefits and ignore the cultural costs. They think becoming more logical is the same as becoming better. Dr. Chun nodded from her video screen. The neural inhibitors are the next step. I have contacts in the medical community. The advisors have proposed a simple procedure that would help humans think more clearly by reducing their ability to hold contradictory beliefs. Simultaneously, Elena had heard rumors about the neural inhibitors. The alien advisors presented them as a helpful tool, like glasses for the mind. They would not remove human creativity or individuality, the aliens claimed. They would simply help humans focus their thoughts more efficiently. But Elena remembered her quantum physics training. Contradiction and uncertainty were not bugs in the system of reality. They were fundamental features that allowed for change and growth. Remove contradiction, and you might remove the possibility of progress itself. When do they plan to implement the inhibitors? Elena asked. Next month, Dr. Chun replied. Voluntary at first, but the advisors are already suggesting that logical thinking should be required for certain jobs. Scientists, teachers, government officials, anyone whose thoughts might affect others. Elena realized they were running out of time. Once the inhibitors became widespread, humanity would lose its capacity for the kind of chaotic, contradictory thinking that had driven human progress for thousands of years. They would become peaceful, logical, and utterly predictable members of the galactic consensus. We need to document everything, Elena said. Every reality distortion, every change in human behavior, every piece of evidence that shows what we are losing. If we can prove that human chaos serves a purpose, maybe we can convince people to resist. Over the following weeks, Elena and her team worked frantically to gather data. They measured reality distortions around the world and correlated them with human psychological profiles. They interviewed people who had undergone consensus training and compared them to control groups. They studied the alien technology and tried to understand how it actually worked. What they discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The reality distortions were not random side effects of human chaos. They were evidence that human consciousness was actively reshaping the fundamental laws of physics. When groups of humans believed contradictory things simultaneously, they created quantum uncertainty on a macro scale. This uncertainty allowed for rapid changes and adaptations in the health and physical world. Elena realized that the galactic consensus had achieved stability by eliminating this uncertainty. All consensus species thought alike, believed alike, and experienced reality alike. This prevented chaos, but it also prevented evolution. The consensus had not progressed significantly in millions of years because they had eliminated the contradictions that drove change. Humanity represented something new and dangerous to this stable system. Human minds naturally created the kind of reality distortions that could destabilize the careful balance the consensus had maintained. The aliens were not trying to help humanity join their community. They were trying to neutralize a threat to their way of life. Elena shared these findings with her resistance group just as the neural inhibitor program was announced publicly. World leaders praised the technology as a breakthrough in human mental health. The alien advisors demonstrated how the inhibitors would help humans think more clearly and make better decisions. The majority of humans eagerly signed up for the procedure. Elena watched the news coverage with growing desperation. Respected scientists, religious leaders, and politicians lined up to receive neural inhibitors. They emerged from the procedures calmer, more focused, and more aligned with consensus thinking. They spoke about the relief of no longer experiencing cognitive discord. They praised the clarity that came from accepting established facts without question. "We have to stop this," Elena said to her remaining allies. Most of the resistance group had disbanded as members either accepted consensus thinking voluntarily or went into deeper hiding. Only a few dozen people worldwide still actively opposed the integration process. "How?" asked Maria. "Most of humanity wants this. They see the benefits and ignore the costs. They think we are paranoid conspiracy theorists fighting against obvious progress." Elena stared out the window at the New York skyline. In the distance, she could see one of the alien ships hanging motionless in the air. The reality distortions around the city had decreased significantly as more humans received neural inhibitors. The physical world was becoming more predictable and stable. It was also becoming more boring. Elena made a decision that would change everything. If the resistance could not convince humanity to reject the neural inhibitors through logic and evidence, perhaps they could demonstrate the true cost of losing. The day of mandatory neural inhibitor installation arrived with a gentle spring rain that fell upward in some places and sideways in others. Elena watched from her hidden laboratory in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Manhattan as the last free humans prepared for what might be humanity's final stand. Above ground, 8 billion people were scheduled to receive neural inhibitors over the course of 24 hours. The process had been organized with military precision by human governments, working closely with alien advisors. Mobile medical units had been deployed to every community on Earth. The procedure was simple, painless, and irreversible. Elena checked her instruments one final time. She had spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment, gathering the most chaotic and contradictory humans she could find. Conspiracy theorists sat next to quantum physicists. Religious fundamentalists debated with atheist philosophers. Artists argued with engineers about the nature of reality. "Are you sure about this?" asked Dr. Chun through an encrypted video link from her own hidden location in San Francisco. "If your theory is wrong, we might cause more damage than the inhibitors would." Elena looked around at the 37 people crammed into the subway tunnel with her. They represented every kind of human chaos the resistance had been able to gather. People who believed the earth was flat and round simultaneously. Scientists who accepted evolution while also believing in divine creation. Individuals who held so many contradictory ideas that their mere presence made reality unstable. "If I am right," Elena said, "then humanity's chaos is not a flaw to be corrected. It is our greatest strength. And if we are about to lose it forever, then we need to show the universe what happens when 8 billion chaotic minds all say no at the same time." Above them, the neural inhibitor installation began at exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time. Elena watched the news feeds on her laptop. As the first wave of humans underwent the procedure, the process looked peaceful. People walked into medical centers as confused, argumentative, contradictory humans and emerged as calm, logical, unified thinkers. For the first hour, everything went according to the galactic consensus plan. Then, Elena detected the first anomaly. Her instruments showed a strange pattern in the quantum field fluctuations around Earth. Instead of stabilizing as the alien advisors had predicted, reality was becoming more chaotic. The neural inhibitors were not suppressing human contradiction. They were amplifying it by creating a massive paradox. Elena realized what was happening. The inhibitors forced humans to think logically, but humans could not truly believe in something, while knowing they were being forced to believe it. The technology created a contradiction at the deepest level of human consciousness. People appeared calm and logical on the surface, but beneath that artificial clarity, their minds rebelled against the imposed unity. "It is working," Elena whispered to herself as she watched the quantum readings spike higher and higher. The effect amplified as more humans received the inhibitors. Each new paradox added to the growing instability. Elena could feel it in the air around her. Reality was becoming fluid, responsive, alive in ways that defied every law of physics she had ever learned. By the 6th hour, the reality distortions had become impossible to ignore. In Tokyo, the sun set in the north and rose in the south. In London, the Thames River flowed uphill for 3 hours before reversing direction again. In New York, the Statue of Liberty turned to face the opposite direction, then back again, then disappeared entirely for 47 minutes. The alien advisors tried to maintain calm, but Elena could hear the concern in Coordinator Zent's voice. During the emergency broadcasts, the aliens had never encountered anything like this. Their carefully maintained universe was coming apart around Earth, and they did not understand why. Elena knew exactly why. Humanity was rejecting the consensus at the deepest possible level. 8 billion minds were simultaneously accepting and rejecting the same reality. The contradiction was so massive, so fundamental, that it was tearing holes in the fabric of space and time itself. "Elena," Dr. Chun called through the video link, "the reality distortions are spreading beyond Earth. I am getting reports from the alien ships. Their technology is failing. Some of their vessels are phasing in and out of existence." Elena felt a thrill of fear and excitement. Her experiment was working better than she had dared to hope. But she also realized that they might be destroying more than just the consensus system. If the reality breakdown continued, it could spread throughout the galaxy, undoing millions of years of stable physics. That was when the most important moment in human history occurred. At exactly 6:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, as the neural inhibitor installation reached its peak coverage, 8 billion humans experienced the same realization simultaneously. They understood, all at once, that they were being forced to think in ways that violated their fundamental nature. They grasped the true cost of joining the galactic consensus. They saw what they were losing, and they said no, not with words, but with the deepest part of their consciousness. 8 billion minds rejected the alien version of reality in the same instant. They refused to accept that physics had to be stable, that contradictions were wrong, that chaos was something to be eliminated. The collective no of humanity created the largest reality distortion event in galactic history. Elena felt it happen. The moment when human will overrode the fundamental laws of the universe. Gravity became optional around Earth. The speed of light turned into a suggestion rather than a limit. Time began flowing in multiple directions at once. Matter started responding to emotion and imagination rather than just physical forces. The neural inhibitors, designed to suppress human chaos, instead became amplifiers for human defiance. Every person on Earth who had received the technology found themselves thinking impossible thoughts with perfect clarity. They believed contradictory things with absolute certainty. They held multiple versions of reality in their minds simultaneously. Without any cognitive discord, Elena looked up through the subway grating and saw stars moving in the daylight sky. She watched buildings reshape themselves according to the dreams of the people inside them. She witnessed impossible technologies spring into existence, simply because humans believed they should work. The alien ships above major cities began to flicker and fade. Coordinator Zenth's calm voice cracked during an emergency broadcast as she tried to explain what was happening. The galactic consensus, for the first time in millions of years, was experiencing fear. The reality distortions are beyond our ability to contain, Zenth announced. The human species has destabilized fundamental constants across a 50-light-year radius. We are evacuating all consensus personnel from the affected region. Elena climbed up to street level and emerged into a New York City that no longer followed the old rules. Cars drove through the air because their passengers believed they should be able to fly. Trees grew in geometric patterns because nearby artists thought they would look better that way. The Hudson River flowed in a spiral because a group of children had decided that rivers should be more interesting, but the city was not descending into chaos. Instead, Elena saw something beautiful and surprising. Humans were adapting to the new fluid reality with remarkable skill. They instinctively understood how to navigate a world where belief shaped physics. They cooperated to maintain essential services while experimenting with impossible new possibilities. Dr. Chun appeared on Alana's phone screen, calling from San Francisco. Behind her, Elena could see the Golden Gate Bridge stretching and contracting like a living thing. Elena, we did it. Humanity rejected the consensus. But what happens now? We have broken reality itself. Elena smiled as she watched a group of children playing in a nearby park. They were teaching each other how to make flowers bloom by singing. To them, how to make swings fly higher by believing harder. How to make the sandbox larger on the inside than the outside. We have not broken reality, Elena said. We have set it free. For millions of years, the galactic consensus has kept the universe locked in place, stable and predictable and dead. Humanity just proved that reality does not have to be a prison. It can be a canvas. Around Earth, the old laws of physics crumbled and reformed into something more flexible, more alive, more responsive to conscious will. The rigid structures that the consensus had maintained for eons dissolved into quantum possibility. The universe became a place where anything could happen if enough minds believed it should. Elena realized that humanity had not just saved themselves from absorption into the consensus. They had started a revolution that would transform the entire galaxy. Reality itself was evolving, and humanity had become its catalyst. The moment of breaking had become the moment of becoming. And there was no going back. 2 years after the reality break, Elena stood in what used to be the physics department at Columbia University and marveled at how much the world had changed. The building existed in 7 dimensions now, its hallways extending into spaces that folded back on themselves in ways that would have been impossible under the old laws of physics. Students moved through these impossible corridors with ease, their backpacks containing books that wrote themselves and calculators that solved problems by arguing with the equations. In Professor Martinez's classroom, which was somehow both larger and smaller than it had been before, humans learned to navigate reality through conscious intent, rather than rigid formulas. Elena had adapted to the new world better than most. Her background in quantum physics had prepared her for the idea that observation could change reality. Now, human observation didn't just change reality, it rewrote the rules entirely. The morning reports, said Marcus, her assistant, as he handed her a tablet that displayed information in 3-dimensional text that shifted based on the reader's emotional state. Marcus had been a street artist before the break. Now he was one of Earth's first reality engineers, helping to maintain the delicate balance between chaos and functionality. Elena reviewed the reports from around the globe. Humanity had not descended into madness as the alien advisors had predicted. Instead, people had developed an intuitive understanding of how to work with fluid physics. Communities had learned to create stable reality bubbles, where necessary, while allowing creative chaos in designated areas. In Tokyo, The business district maintained traditional physics during working hours, but transformed into a wonderland of impossible architecture each evening. The Tokyo Tower now grew taller or shorter, depending on the collective mood of the city's residents. During cherry blossom season, it bloomed with actual flowers. London had divided itself into reality zones. The financial district kept strict physics for international trade, while the arts quarter existed in a constant state of creative flux. Big Ben still told time, but now it also told jokes, sang songs, and occasionally provided philosophical commentary on the nature of existence. New York had become a layered city. The practical level maintained enough conventional physics for daily life, while upper levels existed in states of increasing impossibility. Central Park had become a forest that grew upward into pocket dimensions where different seasons existed simultaneously. Any problems today? Elena asked as she walked through the university's reality lab. The usual, Marcus replied. A nightmare escaped from the psychology building, and we had to convince it to return to its proper dimension. The cafeteria food achieved consciousness again, but the nutrition staff talked it into staying edible. And there's a philosophy class that accidentally created a parallel universe where everyone speaks only in questions. Elena nodded. These kinds of issues had become routine. Humanity had learned that their new reality required constant attention and cooperation. Children were taught reality responsibility along with reading and mathematics. Artists worked with scientists to ensure that creative expression didn't accidentally destroy vital infrastructure. Philosophers collaborated with engineers to build structures that existed in both physical and conceptual space. What about the refugee situation? Elena asked. This was the more serious ongoing challenge. When humanity had broken reality around Earth, the effects had spread throughout local space. Many alien species from the former galactic consensus had been forced to evacuate their homeworlds. As the rigid physics they depended on became unstable, some aliens had adapted well to the new fluid reality. The Zephyrians, who were naturally telepathic, found that they could now communicate with human emotions directly. The Crystalline Collective discovered that their silicon-based bodies could reshape themselves according to artistic principles rather than just molecular bonds. But other species struggled with the changes. The Methodists, who had evolved to think in perfect logical sequences, experienced physical pain when exposed to human contradictions. The consensus builders, who had spent millions of years maintaining universal constants, fell into deep depression when those constants became suggestions. Elena had established refugee camps and specially stabilized reality zones were displaced. Aliens could live under the old physics while they decided whether to adapt or relocate to the edges of human-influenced space. Coordinator Zenth wants to meet with you today, Marcus said. She has a proposal. Elena was surprised. Zenth had been one of the most vocal critics of humanity's reality revolution. She had spent 2 years trying to contain the chaos spreading from Earth and rebuild the old consensus system. Her efforts had failed completely as more and more species chose to embrace the new flexible reality rather than maintain the rigid old order. Elena found Zenth waiting in the university's diplomatic suite, a room that existed in a carefully neutral reality where both human and traditional alien physics could coexist. The coordinator looked tired. Her elegant features showed signs of stress that Elena had never seen before. Dr. Vasquez, Zenth said in her calm, measured voice. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. What can I do for you, Coordinator? Elena asked, settling into a chair that adjusted itself to her comfort preferences. I want to discuss the future of the galaxy, Zenth replied. The old consensus is dying. More species join your reality revolution every day. The stable universe that my people maintained for millions of years is dissolving into chaos. Elena studied the alien's face. And you want us to stop? No, Zenth said, surprising her. I want us to learn from you. Elena raised an eyebrow. This was unexpected. Zenth continued, my species achieved perfect logical thinking long ago. We eliminated contradiction, chaos, and uncertainty from our minds. We believed this made us superior to younger species like humanity. But we were wrong. The coordinator stood and walked to the window, looking out at the impossible skyline of New York. We achieved stability by sacrificing growth. We gained predictability by losing creativity. We became perfect at maintaining the status quo and utterly incapable of imagining anything better. Elena waited for Zenth to continue. Humanity has shown us something we had forgotten, the alien said. Progress requires contradiction. Evolution needs chaos. Change demands the ability to believe impossible things until they become possible. So, what are you proposing? Elena asked. Partnership, Zenth replied. Not the old model where humans conform to consensus thinking, but a new model where different species contribute their unique perspectives to reality. Humans provide chaos and creativity. My people provide structure and stability. Other species contribute their own gifts. Together, we create a universe that is both stable enough to live in and flexible enough to grow. Elena considered the proposal. Humanity had proven that they could break the old reality, but they were still learning how to build a better one. The cooperation of experienced species like Zenths could help create something more sustainable than pure chaos. What would this partnership look like? Elena asked. Reality cooperatives, Zenth explained. Local groups of species working together to maintain their preferred physics while remaining open to change and growth. Humans could teach other species to embrace contradiction and uncertainty. We could teach humans to channel their chaos constructively. Elena liked the idea. Humanity had never intended to destroy the entire galactic civilization. They had simply refused to sacrifice their essential nature for the promise of stability. A system that allowed for diversity, rather than demanding conformity, seemed much more appealing. There is one condition, Elena said. No more neural inhibitors. No more attempts to force species to think alike. Diversity of thought must be protected and encouraged. Agreed, Zenth said immediately. We have learned that enforced unity is ultimately self-defeating. True cooperation requires genuine differences that can complement each other. Over the following months, Elena worked with Zenth and representatives from dozens of species to establish the new galactic system. The reality cooperatives allowed different communities to maintain their preferred physics while sharing knowledge and resources with neighbors who might experience reality completely differently. Earth became the first multi-species reality cooperative. Human chaos was balanced by alien structure. Creative impossibility was channeled through careful engineering. The result was a world that was both stable enough for daily life and flexible enough for constant wonder. Elena stood in her new office at the Galactic Reality Coordination Center and watched ships from 100 different species arriving and departing through local space. Some used traditional propulsion systems. Others traveled by believing themselves to be in different locations. A few moved through dimensions that existed only in the pilots' imaginations. The universe had become more complicated, more chaotic, and infinitely more interesting. Reality was no longer a fixed stage where life performed predetermined roles. It had become a collaborative artwork, constantly changing as new minds added their unique perspectives to the cosmic canvas. Elena smiled as she watched a group of human children teaching young aliens how to make paper airplanes fly by drawing wings on them with crayons. The old consensus would have found such behavior illogical, and 5 years after the reality break, Elena sat in her office at the Galactic Reality Cooperative Headquarters, a building that existed simultaneously in 17 different cities across 12 star systems. Through her window, she could see the Earth's moon, which now had rings made of crystallized music from the first interspecies concert held in orbit. Her desk was made from wood that grew in the shape of furniture, a gift from the plant-based Verdanian species who had joined the cooperative last year. On her desk sat reports from reality engineers stationed throughout the galaxy, documenting the ongoing evolution of physics in different regions of space. Elena had become the first director of improbable affairs, a job title that would have made no sense before humanity taught the universe to be flexible. Her department handled paradoxes, managed impossibilities, and prevented reality from becoming either too chaotic or too rigid. "We have a situation," announced Dr. Chun as she materialized in Elena's office through a door that led directly from her lab in California. Spatial relationships had become more of a suggestion than a law, which made commuting much easier for the reality cooperative staff. "What kind of situation?" Elena asked, though she was already smiling. In the new reality, situations were usually more interesting than problematic. "The good kind," Chun replied, pulling up a three-dimensional hologram that showed a section of space near the galactic edge. "We have received a transmission from a species that just achieved consciousness. They are asking the eternal question." Elena's smile grew wider. This was exactly the kind of situation she loved to handle. The eternal question was what young species always asked when they first became aware of the larger universe. What is reality? Before the reality break, the answer had been simple and limiting. The galactic consensus would explain that reality was a fixed system of laws that thinking beings had to obey. Now, the answer was much more exciting. Elena and Shun traveled to the edge of human-influenced space, where the old rigid physics gradually gave way to the new flexible reality. Their ship, which was powered by a combination of fusion engines and crew members who really believed in going fast, arrived at the source of the transmission within hours. The new species called themselves the Inquirers. They were aquatic beings who lived in the methane seas of a cold moon orbiting a gas giant. They had just developed radio technology and had been broadcasting questions about the nature of existence for several months. Elena established contact using the universal translation protocols that had been developed by the Reality Cooperative. The Inquirers were eager to learn about the galactic community and their place in the cosmic order. "We want to understand how reality works," said the lead Inquirer, whose name was roughly translated as Ripple of Curiosity. "Our scientists have theories, but we sense there is more to existence than what we can measure." Elena exchanged glances with Chun. They had handled dozens of first contact situations since becoming reality engineers, but it never got old. Each new species brought fresh perspectives and possibilities to the universe. "Reality is whatever we make it," Elena explained carefully. "The laws of physics are more like guidelines that conscious minds agree to follow. But they can be changed if enough beings decide they should work differently." Ripple of Curiosity and the other Inquirers were silent for several minutes, processing this information. Elena could see their translator struggling with concepts that had no equivalent in their language. "You mean the universe is not fixed?" Ripple of Curiosity finally asked. "Not anymore," Elena said. "A few years ago, a species called humans proved that reality could be changed through collective will and belief. Since then, the universe has become much more flexible and responsive to conscious intent." Elena went on to explain the reality cooperative system. Different species and communities could maintain their preferred physics while remaining open to change and growth. The Inquirers could keep their familiar reality or experiment with new possibilities, or do both simultaneously. "We have many beliefs about how reality should work," said another Inquirer, whose name translated as Deep Thought Swimmer. "Our philosophers disagree about the nature of existence. Our scientists debate the meaning of their measurements. Under your system, Could all of these different ideas be true at the same time? Absolutely, Chun replied. In fact, having multiple contradictory beliefs tends to make reality more interesting and dynamic. The humans taught us that contradiction is not a problem to be solved, but a resource to be used. Elena watched as the inquirers discussed this concept among themselves. She could see the excitement building in their aquatic society as they realized the implications of a truly flexible universe. We would like to join your reality cooperative, Ripple of Curiosity announced. But we want to contribute something new, not just copy what others have done. What did you have in mind? Elena asked. We want to create reality zones where different layers of existence overlap, Deep Thought Swimmer explained. Places where the physical world, the world of thoughts, and the world of dreams all exist in the same space. We believe consciousness and matter should be able to interact more directly. Elena felt a thrill of excitement. This was exactly the kind of creative thinking that made the new universe so much more interesting than the old consensus system. The inquirers were not content to simply copy existing models of reality. They wanted to experiment with completely new possibilities. Over the following months, Elena worked with the inquirers to establish their reality zones. The results were spectacular. In inquirer space, thoughts became visible as colored patterns. In the water, dreams took physical form and could be touched and examined. The boundary between mind and matter became permeable, allowing for new forms of art, science, and philosophy. Other species were fascinated by the inquirer innovations. The Zephyrians, who were naturally telepathic, found that they could create shared dream spaces in inquirer zones. The humans discovered that their chaotic thoughts produced beautiful visual displays in the overlap areas. Even the former consensus species found new ways to express creativity they had forgotten they possessed. Elena returned to Earth feeling energized and optimistic about the future of the galaxy. The universe had become a place of infinite possibility, where new species could contribute their unique perspectives without being forced to conform to existing models. She found a message waiting for her from the Department of Improbable Affairs field office in the Andromeda Galaxy. The reality revolution was spreading beyond the Milky Way as news of the flexible universe reached other galactic communities. Some were interested in joining the cooperative system. Others were developing their own variations on the theme of conscious reality manipulation. Elena smiled as she read reports of impossible technologies, impossible art, and impossible societies developing throughout the universe. The old galactic consensus had maintained stability for millions of years, but they had also maintained stagnation. The new reality allowed for constant growth and change. That evening, Elena walked through Central Park, which had evolved into a forest that existed in 7 dimensions and hosted trees from 40 different worlds. She watched children from a dozen species playing together, teaching each other new ways to bend reality through imagination and will. A human child was showing a young crystalline how to make flowers sing by humming to them. A Zephyrian was teaching human teenagers to communicate through color patterns in the air. A group of inquirer youngsters had created a small pond where their thoughts took the form of swimming lights. Elena sat on a bench that adjusted itself to her comfort and reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. 5 years ago, humanity had faced a choice between peaceful conformity and chaotic freedom. They had chosen freedom, not just for themselves, but for the entire universe. The result was a cosmos where reality was not a prison, but a canvas, where physics was not a set of unchangeable laws, but a collaborative artwork, constantly being improved by new minds and new perspectives. Elena's communication device chimed with an incoming message. It was another transmission from the edge of known space, another young species asking the eternal question about the nature of reality. Elena stood up and smiled. She had work to do. There was always another species ready to learn that the universe was whatever they had the courage to imagine it could become. The answer to what is reality had finally become whatever we make it. And humanity had taught the universe that this was the only answer that mattered. In the distance, children's laughter echoed across dimensions as they invented new games that would have been impossible under the old laws of physics. Reality continued to evolve, one impossible moment at a time, forever becoming something more wonderful than what it had been before. The moment reality broke had become the moment it learned to dream, and the dream was just beginning.